I want to tell you something that no financial advisor, no retirement calculator, and no YouTube video has probably ever told you directly. You are allowed to spend your money, not carefully, not guiltily, not with one eye on the account balance and one hand ready to pull back the moment something feels too indulgent. Actually spend it. On the trip, on the dinner, on the gift for your grandchild, on the hobby you have been putting off since 2008, on the thing that makes Tuesday feel like something worth waking up for. You saved for decades. You sacrificed. You said no to things, vacations you did not take, upgrades you did not make, experiences you deferred, so that one day you would have the freedom to say yes. And that day is now. That day is retirement. That day is today. And yet, here's the painful irony that research confirms over and over again. The majority of retirees do not spend their money, not because they cannot, not because they ran out, but because something inside them, some deeply wired voice that spent 40 years telling them to save, be careful, be responsible, never got the memo that the saving phase is over. Today, we're going to talk about that voice, where it comes from, why it follows so many retirees into the years they should be living most freely, and most importantly, how to quiet it enough to actually enjoy the retirement you spent your whole life building. Hey everyone, welcome back to Life Advice. I'm Your Name. And today's video is a little different from our usual content. Today we are not talking about risk or taxes or Social Security. Today we are talking about something just as important, how to actually live your retirement. Let's get into it. Let's start with what the research actually says, because the data on retiree spending behavior is both surprising and deeply revealing. A landmark study from United Income, one of the most comprehensive analyses of retiree finances ever conducted, found that the typical retiree dies with the majority of their retirement savings still intact. Not a little left over, the majority. Median retiree households still had roughly 80% of their pre-retirement savings at the time of death, which means the average retiree spent only about 20% of what they saved over the entire course of their retirement. Think about that for a moment. 20%. A lifetime of sacrifice, discipline, and delayed gratification, and the average retiree used only $1.05 of what they built. Now, a portion of that unspent money represents deliberate legacy planning, people who wanted to leave something for their children or grandchildren. That is a valid and beautiful goal. But research from Morningstar and the Employee Benefit Research Institute suggests that for the majority of retirees, the unspent money is not the result of a conscious choice to leave a legacy. It is the result of anxiety, fear of running out, uncertainty about the future, a deeply ingrained saving instinct that simply never turned off. And here is what makes this so heartbreaking. The go-go years, the early phase of retirement when you are healthy, active, and physically capable of doing the things you dreamed about, are finite. Research consistently shows that the window of peak retirement vitality runs roughly from age 62 to age 72. 10 years. 10 years of relative health, energy, and freedom where the world is genuinely open to you in a way it may not be later. Every year of that window spent in financial anxiety, every trip not taken, every experience deferred, every yes converted to a no by the voice that says, maybe I should save it just in case, is a year you cannot get back. And the cruelest part is that for most retirees, the financial case for spending more was there all along. The money was fine, the math was fine, the plan was fine. The only thing standing between them and the retirement they dreamed of was a psychological barrier that nobody helped them dismantle. Today we are going to dismantle it. To understand why so many retirees struggle to spend, we have to understand where the resistance comes from. Because it is not random, it is deeply rooted. And naming it is the first step to overcoming it. For most people who reach retirement with meaningful savings, saving was not just a habit. It was an identity. It was how they defined themselves as responsible, capable, and secure adults. Every month that the account balance went up, they felt good. Every month it stayed flat, they felt neutral. The idea of it going down, deliberately, intentionally, by choice, triggers a visceral discomfort that has nothing to do with actual financial risk. This is the saver identity. And it is one of the most powerful psychological forces in retirement. The person who spent 40 years being the responsible one, the one who always had something set aside, the one who never overextended, that person does not simply flip a switch at 65 and become a spender. The identity runs deeper than the math. And until the identity updates to include spending as equally responsible and equally valid, the anxiety persists regardless of the account balance. Many retirees, particularly those who grew up during times of economic hardship, who watched parents or grandparents struggle, or who lived through periods of financial insecurity in their own adult lives, carry what psychologists call a scarcity mindset, a deeply internalized belief that resources are limited, that security is fragile, and that spending is always one crisis away from becoming a mistake. This mindset served important purposes during accumulation. It motivated saving. It prevented overspending. It built the financial security that funds a comfortable retirement. But in retirement, when the saving phase is over and the spending phase should begin, the scarcity mindset becomes a liability. It keeps people living as if they are still in survival mode long after survival has been secured. The scarcity mindset does not respond to logic. You cannot simply tell someone with a scarcity mindset that their finances are fine and expect them to feel fine. The belief is emotional, not rational, and changing it requires something more than a spreadsheet. It requires a deliberate, intentional process of reframing what spending means and what security actually looks like. We have talked about sequence of returns, risk on this channel before, the real financial risk that a market downturn early in retirement can permanently impair a portfolio. This is a legitimate concern. And for many retirees, the awareness of this risk, even if only vaguely understood, creates a background anxiety about spending that feels financially justified, but is actually disproportionate. Because here's the truth. A well-structured retirement portfolio, like the 3-layer system we covered in our portfolio video, significantly mitigates sequence of returns risk. A retiree with an appropriate cash buffer, a diversified income layer, and a growth component is not nearly as vulnerable to early market downturns as someone with an unstructured all-stock portfolio. But the fear persists, regardless of the structure, because the fear is not really about the portfolio. It is about control, and spending feels like giving up control. Understanding where the spending guilt comes from does not make it disappear, but it does give you something to work with. Because once you can name the source of the anxiety, this is my saver identity, this is my scarcity mindset, this is disproportionate sequence fear, you can begin to address it intentionally rather than simply being ruled by it unconsciously. Here is something that the financial world almost never says out loud. Not spending your money in retirement is a risk, a real, quantifiable, irreversible risk. And in many ways, it is a more certain risk than the one you are trying to protect against. Let me explain. The risk you are protecting against by not spending is running out of money, leaving yourself financially destitute in your 80s or 90s. That is a real risk. It happens to some people. It deserves to be planned for. But, as we have covered on this channel with data from United Income and others, it is not the most common retirement outcome. The most common outcome is dying with far more money than you needed, having spent decades in unnecessary anxiety. The risk you are actually taking by not spending is different and more certain. It is the risk of arriving at the end of your go-go years, at 72, 73, 74, with your health declining and your energy lower, and the realization that the window for the experiences you dreamed about has largely closed, and the money is still there, the account is still full. But the trip to Italy that was always next year is now physically impractical. The cross-country road trip you always wanted to take is no longer realistic. The time with your grandchildren when they were young and impressionable and wanted your company, those years passed while you were being careful. This is what behavioral economists call the time-money trade-off asymmetry. Money that is unspent can always be spent later, but time that is unspent is gone forever. And in retirement, where time is the most precious and most finite resource, spending time without spending money is the worst trade. Research from the Journal of Positive Psychology found that people who spend money on experiences report significantly higher levels of happiness and life satisfaction than people who spend the same amount on possessions. And experiences, particularly shared experiences with people you love, create memories and meaning that compound over time in a way that account balances simply do not. The experience you take with your grandchild this summer, the trip, the adventure, the memory, is worth more in 10 years than whatever that money would have earned sitting in your portfolio. Not because the financial math says so, because human beings are not balance sheets, and the things that make a life feel well lived are almost never the things that show up on a financial statement. Okay, so how do you actually do it? How do you move from knowing intellectually that you should spend more to actually doing it, without the anxiety, without the guilt, without the voice in the back of your head saying, "What if?" Here's the framework that works. And it works because it does not ask you to ignore the financial reality. It asks you to engage with it so clearly and specifically that the anxiety has nowhere to hide. Your permission number is the maximum amount you can sustainably spend per month based on your actual income, your actual portfolio, your actual expenses, and a reasonable withdrawal rate, with high confidence that your money will last your lifetime. Not a guess, an actual calculated number. Here is how to find it. Start with your guaranteed monthly income, Social Security, any pension, any annuity. Add the maximum sustainable monthly withdrawal from your portfolio. Typically, your annual portfolio balance multiplied by 4 to 5% divided by 12. Add those together. That is your permission number. The amount you can spend every single month for the rest of your life with high mathematical confidence that you will not run out. For most retirees who actually do this calculation, The permission number is higher than they have been spending, sometimes significantly higher. And seeing that gap between what they are actually spending and what they are mathematically permitted to spend is often the single most liberating moment in their retirement. Write your permission number down, put it somewhere visible, and when the voice says, maybe I should not spend this, ask it to explain mathematically why this specific expense is a problem given the permission number. It usually cannot, because the anxiety is not math, it is emotion. And the math is the antidote. Most retirees budget carefully for needs: housing, food, healthcare, utilities. Many budget loosely for wants: dining out, entertainment, clothing. And almost none have a specific intentional budget for wishes, the big experiences, the bucket list items, the extraordinary moments. The wishes budget is the one that matters most for retirement satisfaction, because needs are covered automatically, wants are manageable. But wishes, the things that make retirement feel like the reward it is supposed to be, require deliberate allocation. Otherwise, they always lose out to the vague sense that maybe we should save a little more this month. Create a specific wishes budget, a real number, written down, that you commit to spending on extraordinary experiences every year. Not a leftover, not a maybe, a commitment. Travel, experiences with family, hobbies, adventures, whatever your version of a life fully lived looks like. Budget for it explicitly and then spend it on purpose. This sounds morbid. It is actually clarifying. Imagine the obituary that will be written about your retirement years. What will it say? Will it say that you lived fully, experienced deeply, gave generously, and left behind a legacy of memories and moments that the people you love will carry forever? Or will it say that you were careful, that you protected your account balance diligently, that you left behind a large estate and a series of experiences you always meant to have? The obituary test is not about how you want to be remembered financially. It is about how you want to have lived. And most retirees, when they sit with that question honestly, know exactly what the answer is. They just need permission to act on it. One of the most powerful reframes for anxious retirees is this: instead of restricting spending indefinitely, which feels like permanent deprivation, commit to a specific review date. You will spend freely for the next 12 months at your permission number, on your wishes list, without guilt. And then in 12 months, you will review the portfolio, assess the plan, and make any adjustments needed. This works because the anxiety about spending is almost always about the long-term unknown. If you can contain the commitment to a defined period, 1 year, fully engaged, fully spent, fully lived, and then check in, the psychological barrier drops dramatically. Because it is not forever, it is just this year. And after a year of living fully, the review almost always shows that the finances are fine, the plan is working, and there is every reason to do the same thing next year. Let me give you something concrete. Because permission without direction is still abstract. Here are the 5 categories of spending that research most consistently links to retirement happiness and life satisfaction. The places where your money creates the most meaning. The number 1 predictor of happiness in retirement, and in life generally, identified by Harvard's 80-year study of adult development, is the quality of your relationships. Not your account balance, not your health, your relationships. Which means spending money to be present with the people who matter most to you is not indulgence. It is the highest return investment available to a retired person. The trip to visit your grandchildren, the family reunion you host, the holiday you fund so everyone can be together, the dinner you treat your old friends to. These are not luxuries. They are the investments with the highest lifetime return. The research on this is unambiguous. Experiential spending, travel, events, adventures, learning, creates more lasting happiness than material purchases. Because experiences become part of your identity. They become stories. They become shared memories. They appreciate an emotional value over time. A cruise you took 5 years ago is still something you talk about, smile about, and feel grateful for. The appliance you upgraded 5 years ago is just an appliance. Spending on your health in retirement is not self-indulgence. It is the prerequisite for everything else. The gym membership, the personal trainer, the quality food, the dental work, the massage that keeps the chronic pain manageable, the specialist appointment you have been putting off. Health spending in retirement is the investment that makes all other spending possible. And neglecting it to save money is one of the most short-sighted financial decisions a retiree can make. One of the most profound shifts available to retirees who have accumulated meaningful wealth is moving from planning to give through an estate to giving while you are alive. Seeing your grandchild's face when you help with their college tuition, watching a cause you care about benefit from your generosity, being present for the impact of your giving rather than leaving it to happen after you are gone. Research consistently shows that charitable giving and generous gifting to loved ones is one of the highest satisfaction uses of money available to retirees. And for those with taxable estates, strategic gifting while alive can also reduce estate taxes and simplify the eventual distribution of your assets. This one surprises some people, but research from the University of British Columbia found that spending money to buy back time, hiring help for tasks you dislike, paying for convenience, upgrading to the option that makes daily life easier, significantly increases happiness and life satisfaction across all income levels. In retirement, your time is your most precious resource. The house cleaner who comes twice a month, the grocery delivery that eliminates a frustrating errand, the upgraded seat on the long flight that makes the trip to see your family actually enjoyable. These are not waste. They are purchases of time and comfort that compound into a higher quality daily retirement experience, and they are almost always worth it. Let me end with something simple and true. You did not save all your life so your heirs could have a larger inheritance. You saved so you could have a better life, the life you chose, the life you worked toward, the life you delayed gratification for decade after decade. That life is available to you right now, not eventually, right now, in this retirement, in these years, in the health and the energy and the freedom you have today that you may not have tomorrow. The financial work is done. The accumulation is over. The plan is in place. Now the only question left is whether you will actually live it. Run your permission number. Build your wishes budget. Apply the obituary test. Give yourself the review date instead of the restriction. And then, please, spend your money on the things and the people and the experiences that make your life feel like the extraordinary gift it actually is. Because here's the truth that I want you to carry away from this video. A retirement account with a large balance and a life with small experiences is not a success. It is a tragedy in slow motion. And you are too smart, too hardworking, and too deserving of the life you built to let that be your story. Drop a comment below and tell me, what is one thing you have been putting off spending money on in retirement? What is the thing you keep saying maybe next year about? Let's talk about it. I want to know. And I want to help you find the permission to finally say yes. If this video resonated with you, and I believe it will, please share it with every retired person you know who needs to hear it today. It might be the most important thing they watch this year. Not because of the financial information, because of the permission. Subscribe to Life Advice for a new video every single week. I will see you in the next one. Take care of yourself and spend a little money while you're doing it.